We're going to talk about something that hasn't been talked about in this way. Hello, me, uniqueness. Jesus being tempted in the desert, right? In the wilderness, being tempted for 40 days. You know, there's a lot of sermons where it's like, okay, we follow Jesus, so we emulate Jesus, we do what Jesus did. Which, when the devil tempts us, we say, no, we don't need this, blah, blah, blah. You know, like it's more the focus on our response back to the devil. When I believe that the deeper truth to this was not Jesus' response to the devil as in his action, it was his understanding of the truth, which was, you can't feed me, devil. And you trying to get me to feed myself is just bondage, and I was made to be fed by my Father. So it's not this you following Jesus in this way where whenever you are tempted, you abstain from something, right? Whenever you are tempted, you have an accusation back to the enemy and you spit the truth back to him, right? You spit the same thing that Jesus spit to him. You can do this all day long. You can have that action and that behavioral response, but if you don't know, then it's of no use. And the deeper truth is Jesus knew who his provider was. Jesus knew who his Father was. He knew that while being in the wilderness, that there was nothing that was going to feed him other than his Father. So the devil comes in and tries to give him a substitute. And yeah, I guess he's tempted, but it's game over. Like, he's not going to take it because of the knowledge that he has. And so this is what I feel like the Lord is doing. He has us in the wilderness. Maybe you've entered the wilderness, I don't really know, in some kind of wilderness dry situation where you are depending on manna to come from heaven. And this is posturing you and positioning you to know who your provider is, to know that he is the only one that has anything of sustenance to you. See, we have to look at this from he is the author and the perfecter of our faith. But you must come to know this. And you will. Why? Because he's the author and the perfecter of our faith. So you can be tempted in the wilderness to pick up something that won't satisfy you or whatever. And you in the Christian community can say this is a behavioral thing, which is then a sin thing. But no. If he's the author and the perfecter of the faith, then you cannot lose. So wherever you are in relationship to knowing the truth is dependent upon him and his process with you. You will come out of the wilderness knowing the truth. And then you will not be tempted in the same way. You will have no interest in things because you will know the truth about things. Because when he sets out to do something, he sets out to do it. You have like the Egyptians or the Israelites, I don't know, the people that were brought into the wilderness. Why? Because a man can take a man out of a location, but you can't take the location out of the man. You see, they got into the wilderness, and if they were to go straight from Egypt to the promised land, they would still have this mindset of lack that they learned in Egypt, which is, I must fend for myself. I must feed myself. I'm in bondage to taking care of myself. I'm my own parent kind of thing. And so they had to be led to the wilderness to be pruned of that mindset, to be shown that he is the one who provides, he is the one that feeds, and only what he provides and what he feeds will satisfy your soul. But you must come to know this. And you will come to know this because he is faithful. He is who he says he is. It's not this, you get tested and then like, oh, you better respond a certain way. You better abstain from that. No. It's not anything you're going to be able to do in your own strength. You will leave the wilderness not being tempted the same way because you will know the truth that he revealed to you in the dry place, that he alone and grace alone was all that you needed. It was sufficient in your weakness. See, I feel like we try to be like a couple steps ahead. We try to be a couple steps ahead of him because we're still trying to find our place with him because we don't know who we are. So we're trying to be like, look at Jesus and we're trying to do what Jesus did because we don't understand who we are. And we think that what we do is who we are instead of this being thing that comes from within you where you're just like, oh, like, you can't offer me anything because I know the truth. So it no longer influences you the same way. But before that, you are influenced by it. And you probably pick it up a million times. And the Lord uses this to show you that you never can backslide. You never can go anywhere. So pick it up all. Be as you are right now, because it's enough. And since He's the author and the perfecter of their faith, the knowledge of who you are will then influence your behavior, and then you will see, and then He will use the enemy to show you where you are in relationship to knowing the truth. So He basically gives you a progress report based off the enemy. He's like, I'll let the enemy come again, and I know my child won't respond the same way because I have done a new thing in my child. And now I'm not testing my child in this way where he can pass or fail. I'm showing my child that he already passed the test, she already passed the test, and here's a witness that I completed something, because here's the enemy coming to do something, and you're going to behave a certain way, which is going to show you, and you become a witness of what he has done in you. So it's just like, it's all in reliance to Him being the author and the perfecter of the truth, meaning you cannot lose. You cannot fail. Every testing is producing patience. All these things are working out for your good. You can't lose. Just be honest with where you are. This went for a long time, but I could talk about it for a really long time too, because we've had this mindset that we must do what Jesus did, but we don't know who Jesus is and why Jesus did what He did. He did what He did because first He had the knowledge of who He was. So we must have the knowledge of who we are, which then will correspond to the way that we behave. It'll be easy. It'll be natural. You'll be like, I don't want that, but I wanted it before. And thank you, by the grace of God, that I no longer want that thing that I'm being tempted with, not because I abstained from it, not because I did some kind of religious work, but because it naturally got pruned off of me so that you know who He is. Because He wants to show you that He's tending the garden in there. He's the one that's working on you. All right? And it may not be in man's timing where you feel like you have to do this in 6 months or a year or whatever, but it's like this, no. Whenever it's done, it's done. Because when I finish something, it's finished and we're done and we're moving on. We're going to the next place. I am the author and the perfecter. I'm leading you into the wilderness to take the wilderness out of you, to take where you came from out of you. So when I bring you to the new place, there's no hint of the old place in you that hinders you. Because I'm setting this up where you cannot fail. So I'm removing the mindset of failure from your mind. Because you know that if I'm on your side, you can't lose, but you must come to know this. And you come to know this by walking with me. You come to know this by being in relationship with me. And it's not a relationship that you can facilitate. Because again, in the wilderness, everything is stripped and you find, I don't even want to be here. And He's like, yep, let me show you how much I'm keeping you. Let me show you how this is not on you. Let me show you that I got this under control, and that when I do something, it's done. When I put my hands on something, it's done. And you will see, oh my God, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was all Him. So I can't backslide because He led me to the wilderness. I can't get myself out of the wilderness. He has to get me out of the wilderness, and you will come to know that when He finally delivers you from the wilderness. Then you'll be like, well, He's the only one that has anything. And it's all been grace. This will set you up for a hope in the future. I should put this on YouTube or something.